Watching UAP Troop 33. I'm John. I'm your host. Today, we're talking about pilots who reported UAP, reported UFOs, and their planes crashed. And the first one is the Mantell case. Okay. It was the Mantell UFO incident of 1948. Captain Thomas F. Mantell, a Kentucky Air National Guard pilot, died when his P 51 Mustang crashed after pursuing a UFO over Kentucky. He climbed too high without oxygen, lost consciousness, and his plane spiraled down. Then we have the Kinross incident, 1953. United States Air Force pilots Felix Moncia and Robert Wilson vanished while intercepting a UFO over Lake Superior. Radar operators saw their aircraft merge with the unidentified object. Before both disappeared, no wreckage was ever found. Now that's crazy, man. And then the last one, recent military encounters, 2025, a U.S. fighter jet collided with an unidentified aerial system during a training mission over Arizona. The object struck the jet's canopy while mid-flight, marking one of several bizarre encounters reported by military pilots in restricted airspace. And it seems like Arizona is becoming one of the hotspots for UFOs these days. These cases remain mysterious. I mean, it's just crazy, man. And it's fueling speculation about UFOs and their interactions with aircraft. One of the earliest, most mysterious UFO related aviation accidents. On January 7, 1948, this is described the object as metallic and tremendous in size. Mantell pursued this object in his P 51 Mustang. He climbed to 22,000 feet without oxygen mask. His wingmen, lacking oxygen equipment, broke off the chase. Mantell continued to ascend. And I believe I've actually saw a episode of this. Forget what it was, maybe a History Channel episode or something. Um, After reaching 25,000 feet, he likely lost consciousness due to lack of oxygen, and his plane spiraled downward and crashed. It's a shame, dude. The incident sparked widespread speculation. Some believe Mantell had chased an extraterrestrial craft. Of course, if I'm not, skeptics and these investigators later came out and said it was a skyhook balloon. A balloon! Surprise, surprise. The trusty balloon. Yeah. Yeah, okay. Wild, man. See here. Kinross incident is one of the most baffling UFO related aviation disappearances. On November 23rd, 1953, First Lieutenant Felix Moncia and Second Lieutenant Robert Wilson were scrambled in a F-89C Scorpion jet from Kinross Air Force Base to intercept an unidentified object detected over Lake Superior. As Moncia and Wilson pursued the object, radar operators on the ground watched in shock as the blips representing the jet and the UFO merged into one and then vanished from the radar screen. No wreckage was ever found, and neither pilot was ever seen again. The U.S. Air Force later claimed the object was a Royal Canadian Air Force C-47 transport plane and that Mancia's jet had crashed while tracking it. However, Canada denied such an incident involving their aircraft, leaving the mystery unresolved. The case remains one of the most chilling UFO encounters in aviation histories. Crazy, man. What do you guys think about that, man? Wild, right? So in that case, we got a pilot, right? Valentich disappears. The craft disappears. He claims that he was being followed by a craft, right? His last radio transmission, he said it wasn't a craft, right? He's basically telling you it was a UFO. And then you hear scraping metal noises, and that's it. It cuts out. Said his engine was running roughly when the thing was flying overhead at 1,000 feet above him. This is a crazy case. right? And I want to bring it back to today, right? Just the other day, I did the episode, the UAP crisis that the airline industry doesn't want you to know about. And in that episode, I showed multiple cases where air traffic control are giving pilots warning. I got cases where pilots are radio and air traffic control about UAPs and their flight path, being given permission to um, change elevation to avoid UAP. Air traffic control actually referring to them as UFOs. And then you look at, like, just a couple months ago, there was like a plane crash every other day, right? And I show you a case where a guy just disappears. And all this kind of coincides with the drone incursions from November, December, and January, the UAP sightings that are still going on today. Um, there's something going on in our skies, man. There's something happening. There's definitely a UAP situation that they're not telling us because they don't want the airline industry to collapse. Because I'm going to tell you right now, there's already talk, like, Bank of America. If the interest rates would go up even 10%, they're saying Bank of America would collapse. So we can't really afford a crisis in the airline industry where people are afraid to fly. And I think that's a lot of the reason why a lot of this stuff isn't being disclosed. There's so many socio-economic situations that you have to take into account with disclosure. Of course, we want the truth. We want to know what's really going on. But at what price? What price are we willing to accept to know the truth? And I'm going to pose it to you guys, right? You can do this on your own. If you go and you watch Custodian File, he's telling you how you can catch these things on film. He's telling you 60 frames per second, 1080p. You could do it with a phone. You zoom in about 20% on any aircraft you've seen flying in the air, and that eventually you will definitely get these things called dragons, which are these small, super fast moving UAPs that zip past craft that are usually too fast for the naked eye to see. But when you slow the footage down, you record it, go back, and you slow it down to, like, 1.5, 2% or something, you'll see this thing pass through the frame. And I even put footage up where one flew past the Trump rally. What do you think? Am I crazy? Is this just mass hysteria? Are we just seeing things? Are we misidentifying bugs? What is it? Because I'm telling you, I think it's UAPs. I think it's UFOs. And I think this is what hit the fighter pilot. And the thing hit the fighter pilot over a military base, but they found no wreckage of a drone. If a drone hits a fighter pilot hard enough to crack the canopy where the jet has to literally land, don't you think you would find some kind of wreckage? You're telling me you don't think the military went there and tried to see if there was any wreckage to find out if it was a drone? Because if it was some kind of foreign technology that's being used to spy on us, of course our military is going to want to get a hold of that, right? There was no report of them finding anything. So, what kind of craft has the ability to slam into a fighter jet, crack the canopy, and not suffer any damage itself? What's that? Of course, I'm sure Mick West and Brian Dunning probably have some type of answer. It was a balloon. Balloon cracked that canopy, right? It was a weather balloon. They were dropping mannequins from the sky. I got to crack some jokes on them dudes, right? You know, it's not like, hey, the physicist, renowned, quantum physicist, blah blah blah. With all kind of PhDs behind her name. Nah, none of that. Just debunker, skeptic. That's all they're known for, right? And you get asked on Jesse Michaels, well, who's paying you? Oh, I can't tell you that, but I am getting paid. So he is getting paid to be a skeptic, but he's not going to tell you who's paying him. Yeah, I mean, seriously, what do you guys think? It's kind of funny, isn't it? I'll be right back. UK airline pilots spot giant UFO, mile-wide mystery object hovers over Channel Islands. Two experienced airline pilots at the controls of separate flights have reported seeing a mystery object up to a mile wide hovering over the coast of Alderney on Monday. Captain Ray Boyer, 50, of local airline Rigney, spotted a bright yellow light 10 miles west off Alderney about 3 p.m. during a flight from Southampton while his aircraft was 30 miles from the island at 4,000 feet. I actually posted a recording of this. I may even post it here, but I mean, a mile wide, just wild, man. And this is one of the most famous cases in UK history by a pilot. Two pilots actually reported seeing these lights and these UFOs. The passengers on the plane reported seeing it. There was a report made. Very famous case, man. But this is what Boyer said. He said he spied a second identical object further to the west. It was exactly the same, but looked smaller because it was further away. It was closer to Guernsey. I can't explain it. At first, I thought it might have been a reflection, but that would have disappeared quickly. This was clearly visual for about 9 minutes. I remember during the recording, he said he was looking at it through binoculars. And then later on, he said he was able to see it without binoculars, that all the passengers seen it. They actually they cleared him to change his uh, elevation to avoid it. Another pilot actually reported seeing it. Air traffic controllers, just a wild case. This was in, I believe, 2007. The UFO was 1,550 feet lower than his aircraft, which was 3,500 feet. So both pilots placed it at the same altitude. So you got two different reports, two different witnesses of the same object. Just a wild case, guys. Just wanted to share that with you. What do you guys think of these missing pilots? Pilots coming up missing. This rash of air crashes that happened a couple months ago. UAP phenomenon spiking heavily. But not only that, but the advancement in the drone technology. Could it be drones? What's making these planes crash? What's happening out there? Fighter pilot just got his cockpit smacked, had to land. What is it? This is a scary time when it comes to flight. I'm telling you right now, I'm not getting on a plane. That's just me. Now, yeah, they say they're safer than cars. The chances of anything happening is slim to none. But you just look around and you see this spike and what's going on here, and you look at these channels like custodian file where these fast movers are buzzing aircraft left and right, and they're coming very close. I don't know. Let me know what you guys think, please. Hit me up in the comments. Like, share it to a friend, share it to two friends. Till tomorrow. Peace.